समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या समझ में नहीं आया?
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
New questions have arisen for Boeing after a fresh snag, a mid-air scare, was reported on an Air India flight that was bound from Birmingham after taking off from Amritsar. Although the flight landed safely without any problem or complication, something very peculiar took place on this flight. The rat deployed uncommanded. Quite simply, it means that the pilots did not set off anything that should have led to the rat deploying. The rat is only meant to deploy in the case of dual engine failure or hydraulic failure, and yet it deployed at about 400 feet before the plane landed. This has led the Federation of Indian Pilots, because remember the plane on which this happened is the 787, and the plane that crashed, Air India 171, was also a 787, to demand that there be a comprehensive investigation of the electrical systems of the entire 787 fleet in India. This would effectively mean temporarily grounding the fleet. The Federation has demanded this in letters written to the government as well as to other bodies like the regulator, the DGCA. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo Story. On the program today, we look at what happened on the Air India flight bound for Birmingham that took off from Amritsar, landed safely without any incident, without any injury, without any mishap as it were. But a very peculiar development took place on this flight. The rat deployed at 400 feet, and we all remember the Air India 171 crash. We all remember seeing the CCTV footage of that plane where the rat deployed as well. The rat is meant to deploy only in the case of dual engine or hydraulic failure. How did it happen on its own? It's led to more questions about so-called uncommanded actions that take place on the 787. It basically means that nobody's commanding them, nobody's asking for them. Is this something that explains what could have happened on the ill-fated Air India 171 aircraft? Let me introduce our two expert guests today as we try and understand what happened on AI 117 that landed safely in Birmingham with this peculiar incident and what it might mean for the Air India 171 crash. Captain Amit Singh is with us. He is somebody who has filed public interest litigation in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, in fact, responded to his petition by saying it was irresponsible to point a finger at the pilots, the commanders of Air India 171, without any evidence. And the court has now issued notices. He is the founder of Safety Matters Foundation. Good to see you. And also joining us is Captain J.P. Singh, who is, of course, a military veteran, who is bringing his hands-on experience to this episode. Let me start with you, Captain Amit Singh. In the light of the fact that you've actually gone to court and you joined the dots with what's happened, the Ram Air Turbine, otherwise known as RAT, is meant to come on only in the case of a dual engine failure or a hydraulic failure. None of that happened on this plane that was headed for Birmingham and landed safely. What do you make of what's happened? Could we actually change the shots? Those are the Air India 171 shots. Go ahead, sir.
If you look at the anatomy of an accident, there are always certain low-level signals or murmurs or insignificant occurrences. Alone, they will not do anything, harm anybody. But if they are combined with other threats, they can snowball into a bigger one, which happened in case of Air India 171. Mm-hmm. So there have been electrical issues with the aircraft, since the aircraft is majorly into electrical generation through batteries and other means. So this RAT deployment is only an indication that there is something wrong and it is an emergency response of the aircraft, it could be a real or it could be a spurious event. So that needs to be differentiated. But if it is happening on other fleet as well, it happened on LATAM 787 after takeoff in July 2025, and now Air India. So we need to look deeper into the interrelationship between the systems, because let me remind you, this is not a normal electronic network wherein we have a series of point-to-point connection of wires. We have a core network, and the tapping is taken from at various ends. So if the core network is affected, which was affected in case of Air India 171, and it is documented in the preliminary report that the core network is affected. There were other indications like the battery BPCU faults, left and right, which means the power distribution faults. So these combine and they snowball to become a bigger event. So that needs to be looked at. So in isolation, it may not be a significant thing, but we need to look at the what it could snowball into.
I want to ask you, Captain JP Singh, the Federation of Indian Pilots has demanded that in the light of what happened to Air India 171, where we know the RAT deployed, but the preliminary investigation report doesn't give us an exact timestamp for when it deployed. So therefore that mystery continues. They say that you need to investigate the electrical systems of the entire 787 fleet. That would mean effectively grounding the fleet, at least in India. Do you believe the time has come to do so? Not because we know necessarily, as Amit said, maybe this is a small incident, maybe it's not, but given the crash, given the mounting questions about the 787, do you think that's now important to do?
I really don't know as to what direction the inquiry wants to take, but what Captain Amit said is very, very relevant. It's not only everybody keeps talking about this aircraft being electrical, it is electrical, it's heavily loaded with avionics, and it is also now driven by software. Software glitches are extremely difficult to replicate. If you remember the MAX crash that happened in Indonesia, they found that it was there in the system that the aircraft had suffered a similar problem. It's just that by luck, those guys reacted not to the emergency, because the rate of trimming is very slow when the system cuts in. But they saw the trim wheel moving and they just disengaged the stabilizer totally, which actually helped them land back, and which was not the case with the aircraft that actually went and crashed. So software glitches are extremely difficult to replicate, and I would just like to emphasize, in case of 171 crash, RAT has deployed. That's a no-brainer. Everybody knew. Within, I think the aircraft crashed at 1:40 in the afternoon, and by 2:30 on this site, it's called peeproon.com. I saw the video of the RAT being deployed, and at that time the aircraft was it was photographed at about 200 feet height. That's how they kind of measured it against the building, what was the height of the building and where the aircraft is shown in respect to that. And the aircraft has, as per the radar, if you go to Wikipedia now, it says it has climbed to 400 feet AGL plus. Okay, that is indicated altitude was 625 feet or something by the radar. Now 400 feet is a very, very critical this thing, because in all the cases, including the Japan Airlines aircraft, the Air India, it was in the position of transiting from, in the case of Air India 171, from transiting from ground to air. In case of the Japan Airlines, aircraft was landed and then had engine flameouts. Again, it was transient. That means it was changing from the air phase to the landing phase. Okay, and in this case, 400 feet rings a bell. Actually, in this entire system of aircraft, 1500 feet below, the aircraft comes into the landing phase. And by then, a lot of things are happening to the aircraft. I don't remember offhand, so I'll just read it out. Systems that automatically get activated or reconfigured. Flight control systems. That means the amount the control moves, the sensitivity, That is to give you better controllability during landing, so that you don't get into what is called pilot induced oscillations and all. That means the response to the controls becomes less. Then is elevator field shifts, tail strike protection is armed, autopilot land 2 in case you're going auto land, flare gets armed, display alerting systems, some of them get inhibited below 400 feet. Like if you're closing into terrain, it will not give you warning like low terrain or pull up now, because below 400 feet, some of these commands get inhibited. Display alerting system, radio altimeter based inhibition logic. A lot of commands get inhibited. So what I'm saying is, since it crossed 400 feet, a lot of these systems get activated, which could have given the glitch for the rat to deploy. Because
So
software systems-
you feel it's a software glitch, and we have seen this before. We've seen the famous Osaka landing on a 787,
Yes.
right, where the engines failed after landing, but it was
Yes.
again uncommanded. And of course, in
Yeah.
the MAX, that was a different fleet, but it was also the problem with the MCAS, again a software problem. So I want to bring in Captain Amit Singh here. You're in court. Is this something you would flag, that there are any list of issues now with the 787? Do you agree with the FIP saying investigate the entire fleet, Captain Amit?
Well, certainly, because without eliminating the technical issue, we cannot allow 1,300 aircrafts flying with an unknown glitch or a software anomaly or something like that.
So you
So
think
we
the
have to have-
787 should be grounded? You think it's at that point?
There has to be a comprehensive confidence check. So there has to be a package, be it an electrical system package, a quick confidence check, which need to be done on our aircraft, not grounded, unless you find something for sure, for certain. One interesting thing while you were showing the CCTV image is what nobody is talking about. Everybody assumes that is the aircraft. But
Yeah.
how do you know that is the same aircraft? Because
But you
on
see
the-
it explode. You know it's
No,
the
no,
same
no.
aircraft because you see
Not
it.
this one. The
Then?
preliminary report.
Yeah,
and that the
has a
CCTV
photograph.
is there.
Yes. And they said it was from a third CCTV. Can we have that still, please? They said it was from a third. There, that one. Is that the one you mean?
I can't see it right now, but there's only
So
one
that's
image.
yeah. This is the one from the report. This is that image.
But do you
This
see
is
the
that
registration mark on the image? That has been erased. The registration mark has been erased on the tail. Under the wing, there's a smudge. And in the front of the fuselage, the markings have been erased. And there's no timestamp.
Right.
So firstly, why has it been erased? If that is a unique identification of every aircraft. So either it should not be there in the report, such an image, if you want to call it a CCTV image. So besides that point, what I'm saying is the confidence check. How do we know that is the aircraft? And is it a diversionary tactic or something? Because now we don't know when the rat was deployed. We know only when the rat started developing power. What we are interested in is the hook. When was the rat deployed, so that we can calculate the engine failure time.
Yeah.
And did it fail because of on its own, which means before the fuel control switches were moved, or with the fuel control switches? So that clarity is not there. So technical clarity has to be there before we do anything.
Yeah.
Before we go towards human factors or anything else. And the software anomalies are there. Every aircraft has them. But they have to be evaluated whether it affects safety or not. And there are certain issues on Airbus as well and Boeing.
Yeah.
But it has to be evaluated by the regulator. The responsibility is of the regulator in India and nobody else. Because FA can issue or may not issue. They may issue an advisory, but we think it is important for us because it is affecting our fleet. So it can change. So advisory doesn't mean that it is not to be implemented. So these kind of things have to be looked at, the larger picture.
So two parts here. One, that the regulator, the DGC, has to take a call, but the pro panel will also have to factor this in. The fact that on another 787, an uncommanded action like the rat deploying at 400 feet has taken place. Yes, it may be unrelated. Sorry, Amit, you want to go make a point? Then I'll go to Captain JP.
So the same aircraft on which the rat deployed, VTANO, in 2016, there was an engine failure. One of the engines failed. And the report is not there on the DGCA website. I couldn't find it anywhere else. Even if I do a search, the aircraft was...
You mean the one that landed in Birmingham?
Yeah. So en route to Heathrow, the flight number was 115 in 2016, February, sometime. And the aircraft diverted to Frankfurt and landed because of the engine failure. The report said that the pilots had to shut down the engine, which means there was something for which they had to shut down the engine. So we don't have enough data. That is the problem. So we are hitting in the dark. There are things we see which do not match, but we cannot put a finger because we don't have enough data. And no data being provided to us. That is the problem.
So Captain JP, what are the implications, if any, for the probe that is taking place? Captain Amit is already in court saying that he believes the cockpit voice recorder and the black box, as we call it, have been, compromised. The probe panel has too many unanswered questions. Given this incident, what are the implications for the larger probe?
I feel at least now they have the cockpit voice recorder, they have the flight data recorder, and what has instigated or initiated the deployment of RAT can be made out definitely as to what has caused that thing. If it is a software glitch, let it be known that it's a software glitch. But I just want to add one thing, which actually I'm very confused as to why nobody is taking cognizance of this fact. Like I just mentioned to you, that RAT deployed has been photographed at 200 feet altitude aircraft. After that, the aircraft has gained another 200 feet, which is 400 feet AGL, before it has started descending and crashed. The site crash is 1.7 kilometers away from the point. The aircraft has remained, it took 38 seconds to roll, and after that, I think 28 seconds to crash. That's what the CCTV says when you have the timestamp.
Yeah.
How has the aircraft gone if the RAT was deployed and the engines were still, to my mind, they were running? Otherwise, the aircraft would not have gained another 200 feet. If the engines had failed before and the RAT is deployed later,
but we don't know when the RAT is. I mean, I'm not an expert, but what I understand is we don't precisely know when the RAT is deployed.
No, even I don't know that. But when at 200 feet, the aircraft has been photographed by another video. This is the shot from the rear. There's another shot which was released. It's there on pprune.com.
Yeah.
And that is from the side. The guy has recorded the aircraft rolling, and till the crash, he's recorded the site. And even the sound of the RAT has been recorded, which actually...
Correct. We have that video. Yes.
Yeah. So they said, it is probably a sound of a motorcycle or something because of the Doppler effect, the sound keeps changing, the pitch keeps changing. But in that, they have actually subjected the sound, proving that it is the sound of the RAT, to confirm that RAT is deployed. So how has the aircraft climbed another 200 feet if the premise was that either the captain has shut off the engines or they have shut down, and then as a consequence, the RAT is deployed? It's confusing, because it doesn't make sense. And it's not rocket science that an aircraft has gained 200 feet after the deployment of RAT. I'm not saying when the RAT deployed. All I'm saying is, to my mind, the engines have not failed at that time, because the aircraft wouldn't have gained 200 feet. I mean, those of us who have had nobody's had a 2-engine failure unless you simulate it on the simulator. You cut off the engine as you're rotating it. The aircraft will fall back right on the runway. It won't even gain 50 feet.
So you're saying how did it gain that height if the engines had failed?
Exactly.
And if the engines hadn't failed, then why did the RAT deploy?
Exactly. Then that you're already aware that it's happened in the phase. Earlier there was a thought process that said maybe it is the weight on wheels switch, which is the aircraft has not sensed that the aircraft getting in the air. But the RAT does not deploy on the ground. It is not meant to deploy on the ground. It cannot be deployed unless you do it through maintenance for a check or something.
Well, we just saw that the RAT deployed for no
Yes.
apparent reason. So
Yes.
So there's a lot we don't know. I want to give Captain Amit Singh the final word. Do you want to respond to what Captain JP has asked, that how did the aircraft gain these 200 feet in height if the engines had in fact failed?
Well, the aircraft, I won't say for sure, but the aircraft will continue to accelerate. The aircraft did lift off beyond the rotation speed, which means they delayed the rotation for some reason. They had extra speed, and that extra speed could have translated to height. So, and these are big engines. So, for these big engines, if the engines fail, they don't stop the moment they fail.
Immediately.
They continue to produce thrust, residual thrust for some time, a few seconds maybe, but they do continue. And this is a very clean, the wing is very clean, very efficient. So that part is, there's no doubt that there would be some lift generated. But that is a very technical kind of a thing which only a flight data recorder can tell us about the data, what the pilots did, how did they rotate, and all that stuff. But taking you back, if you look at the images released on the Delhi-Ahmedabad sector, one of the passengers had released the certain
Oh
images.
yeah, when he
Not
said that
images.
he said the air conditioning was not working. Yeah.
And the call bell is not working, in-flight entertainment. So that is an indication that the core network is affected, which was also logged as a defect. And on this aircraft, when they taxied out, the same problems were there. So that electrical instability was sure. And did that electrical instability translate into the RAD deployment and further whatever happened? That possibility is very high. And then you see the rear EFR getting kind of melted.
The black box, we have that image, yes.
Towards the instability and the lights going on and off. So all these are indications. So we can, at this point, we talk about indications and not be sure about what actually happened. The CCTV image in the preliminary report, like I said, is not the exact CCTV image of the aircraft. So it could be higher or lower at that point because there's no timestamp on it. We can only guess. So at this point, we need more data. That is the point.
And those are the images of the rear black box that you have always argued is in a state which points to some sort of either a battery inflamed or an electrical failure. That seems to be what the Federation is arguing today, saying please investigate the entire fleet, at least the fleet in India. That decision will be taken by the regulator now, but certainly new questions for Boeing in this case, new questions for the probe panel into the AI-171 crash. Captain Amit Singh is already in Supreme Court. We hear the commander of AI-171, Sumit Sabharwal's father, may also go to court. Separately, an American attorney has sued Boeing on behalf of nearly 95 families in America. So there's a lot happening. We'll keep following every dimension of this. Thankfully, the aircraft landed safely in Birmingham. And that much needs to be said. We still don't know why the RAT deployed on this particular aircraft. Thank you, Captain Amit and Captain JP. Always learn so much from all of you. Thank you, take care, and see you soon.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.